This is the time.
Okay, there we go. Good morning. This is the time and place for the zoning cases hearing of December 1st, 2010. My name is Jeff Hamilton, and I'll be conducting the hearing as the hearing officer. We have two cases today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels behind me. I'm going to be hearing officer for the first case, and then Bradley Collin will be the hearing officer for the second case. Let's see. We have a variance on the agenda for the second case. So under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if four required findings are present. First, that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. Second, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. That the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. If there is a conditional use permit, there are conditional use permits on the agenda. My item, under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 3042 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if four required findings are present. They are, first, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. Two, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. Three, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. And four, that adequate public and private facilities, including utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures, are or will be provided for the proposed use. For the case I'm going to be the hearing officer on, it's a proposal for beer and wine sales at a restaurant. Therefore, there are 5 additional findings or criteria that are necessary to be made for the conditional use permit. First, that where an existing or proposed on-site use is located in a census tract with more than the recommended maximum concentration of on-site uses, or that where an existing or proposed off-site use is located in a census tract with more than the recommended maximum concentration of off-site uses, both as recommended by the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Such use does not nor will not intend to intensify or otherwise contribute to the adverse impacts on the surrounding area caused by such overconcentration. Second, that where the existing or proposed use is located in a crime reporting district with a crime rate which exceeds 20% of the city average for Part 1 crimes, as reported by the Glendale Police Division, such use does not or will not tend to encourage or intensify crime within the district. Third, that the existing or proposed use does not or will not adversely impact any church, public or private school or college, daycare facility, public park, library, hospital, or residential use within the surrounding area. 4, that adequate parking and loading facilities are or will be provided for the existing or proposed use, or other reasonable alternatives that will satisfy the transportation and parking needs of the existing or proposed use. And 5th, that notwithstanding consideration of the criteria in subsections 1 through 4 above, the existing or proposed use does or will serve a public necessity or public convenience purpose for the area. If the findings presented in the application at the hearing meets the criteria described, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, placed in the local newspaper, and posted on the city's website. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the application or request. I'll read the reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and taken under submission, or the decision may be rendered at the hearing. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on that letter. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the decision date, and the notice of appeal shall be filed with the Building and Safety Division located at the Municipal Services Building, Room 101. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided at the front door and submit it to our staff. I'd also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of today's hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. So the first item today is conditional use permit case PCUP 2010-029. The proposal is to obtain a conditional use permit to allow the sale and service of beer and wine for on-site consumption at a new full-service restaurant in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zone. The address is 333.5 Verdugo Road. And I'm going to ask the staff to now give a presentation on the case.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Good morning. As you mentioned, the case number for the conditional use permit application is PCUP 2010-029, located at 333.5 Verdugo Road. The application is to obtain a conditional use permit to allow the sale and service of beer and wine for on-site consumption at a new full-service restaurant in the C1 zone. This project is exempt from CEQA. Staff recommends an approval with conditions. I will get into those later. The subject property is located in an existing shopping center at the corner of Chevy Chase and Verdugo Road. There are currently 2 structures, a larger structure that is towards the south and west boundary lines of the property, and a relatively smaller structure at the northeast corner, which is the closest to the intersection of Chevy Chase and Verdugo Road. Staff has communicated with the police department and has gotten some comments back, including, according to the police department, the census tract which this property is in allows 7 on-sale establishments. There currently are only 3, and the crime rate in this area is 84, which is actually equal to the city average. Police department recommends approval of this project with no major issues or oppositions. Applicant proposes operational hours of 11 to 12 midnight, 11 a.m. to 12 midnight, which is one of the staff recommended conditions. These conditions that staff has added are 6 conditions which have been consulted with the applicant, and applicant has no major objections or comments regarding those. If you would like me to, I can either go over the draft findings or hand it over to the applicant to make the findings.
No, you don't have to go over the well, no, you should review the draft findings, please.
Sure. A. On-site sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages at a new proposed full-service restaurant is a permitted use in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zone, subject to approval of a conditional use permit, and is consistent with the various elements of the general plan. The request is in keeping with the standard operational procedures of the zoning use certificate and shall comply with the conditions of conditional use permit. This establishment is located in the C1 zone, where restaurants are allowed in compliance with the neighborhood commercial land use designation of land use element of the general plan. The zoning designation is designed to promote service and retail uses for the benefit of the neighborhood. The proposed use is consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan. B. The proposed use is within an existing structure that is part of the larger shopping center. It has existed there since 1974. There are only 3 on-sale establishments in the subject census tract where 7 are allowed. The associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety and general welfare or the environment. The number of crimes in the area is at the city average of 84 per the police report. The proposed beer and wine license is not anticipated to be detrimental to the public health or safety. The on-site sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine will be ancillary to the primary restaurant use. C. The proposed full-service restaurant will be, with the sales, service, and consumption of beer and wine, will not adversely impact the existing facilities, property values, or normal development within the surrounding area. The property is zoned commercially and is intended for various types of retail, service, and restaurant uses. The proposed use falls under the restaurant use category, which fits in well with the existing surrounding retail and service uses. Moreover, given the fact that the area is not overly saturated with on-sale establishments, the proposed use will be a suitable addition to the area. And D. Adequate parking and private facilities such as loading setbacks, utilities, and open space are provided for the existing structure and the use. The conditional use permit for the sale, service, and consumption of on-site beer and wine is not anticipated to intensify the parking demand, since the total square footage for the subject tenant space is less than 2,000 square feet and no additional floor area is being proposed. Moreover, the site is in a fully developed commercial area with all required utilities such as gas, electricity, water, sewer, and landscaping already in place.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask the applicant, Williams Land Use Services, represented by Janelle Williams, to come forward, and she has a speaker's card. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Mr. Hamilton. My name is Janelle Williams, Williams Land Use Services. My office is located at 2418 Honolulu Avenue in Glendale. Thank you, Gevorg. I'll just start by going into, we have looked at the staff report and all of the comments from the various city departments. I think the only department that had a comment was the police. As Gevorg has indicated, they have only identified 3 where 7 are allowed for on sale. So I'll just go into the findings. The proposed restaurant with wine and beer service is situated in a shopping center. The land use element of the general plan for neighborhood commercial designated areas aim to improve the existing facilities within the city. This use is appropriately situated in a small neighborhood shopping center. Eden Cafe is located at the northeast corner of Chevy Chase and Verdugo. The objective of the proposed request is to further enhance the applicant's business plan by offering a nice cafe that offers beer and wine service in place of the, right now is a rather blighted and vacant yogurt and submarine sandwich shop, which existed there. The use is allowed in the zone, and the property is appropriately located and described, as described for the use. A new full-service kitchen is being built, where everything will be prepared fresh and delivered to the table. The C1 zoning designation permits this service of beer and wine with the conditional approval that we seek and with the conditions that you would impose. The conditions that you will impose will ensure that the operation of the restaurant will be in strict accordance with the requirements of the code and would not be detrimental to the health, safety, general welfare, or to the environment. Conditions to help reduce impact to the adjacent businesses and neighbors, stating the alcoholic beverages are not to be consumed outside of the designated indoor or outdoor patio spaces, and food will be required to be served at all hours the establishment is open for business. Hours of operation will be complementary with surrounding businesses and are not expected to cause any conflicts whatsoever. There will be no separate bar, there will be no dancing, anything like that, and all trash will be properly disposed of. The restaurant will not adversely affect or conflict with any adjacent uses. Since it is in an area that's fully built out, there's no chance of it impeding development of surrounding property. No changes to the size of the building will occur as a result of this grant, and the applicant will effectively monitor areas outside of the facility and off the premises to ensure orderliness, cleanliness, and safety. The building is located at Verdugo and Chevy Chase. Verdugo is classified as a major arterial in accordance with the circulation element of the general plan, and the street is identified as having predominant use character of community commercial, which is compatible with the operation requested with this conditional use permit. All adequate utilities, landscaping, and parking already do exist to the site and conform to the City of Glendale's code requirements. Lunch and dinner will be served daily. And are you interested in going over the additional criteria for alcoholic beverages?
Yes, please.
Okay. If the existing proposed on-site use is located in a census tract with more than the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control recommended maximum concentration, how does such use not intensify or otherwise contribute to the adverse impacts? As the police have stated, and Gavork has reported, that 7 are allowed and 3 are existing, so that this would not be an overconcentration of on-site, and the police have no issue with this application. And it does not exceed the 80, what is the percentage? 84% of the city, the average. It equals the average crime statistic with the city of Glendale. So in this census tract. But there is no overconcentration here. If the existing or proposed use is located in a crime reporting district that exceeds 20%, I guess that's not applicable in this case because it's equal to the crime report, the crime rate, which is 84%. How does or will the existing or proposed use not adversely impact any church, public or private school or college, daycare facility, public park, library, hospital, or residential use within the surrounding area? We don't expect any impact to occur. In fact, we would anticipate and hope that the residents would come over and have lunch or dinner at the location. This will be a neighborhood establishment serving residents as well as patrons and employees of the center. And the ability to have an alcoholic beverage with meals or wine is anticipated amenity. Food would be offered with any alcoholic beverage order. And I don't believe there are any churches within the radius that we identified, or daycare centers or schools. And none of the property owners responded to the mailer that was sent out. Okay. That's it. I do have a petition that was signed, a support petition that was signed by a total of 57 people. This came in yesterday, and a letter from the City of Glendale Chamber of Commerce in support of this application. I'd like to submit that and answer any questions that you might have.
Do you or the business owner have any objections to the proposed conditions of approval?
No, we do not.
Okay. I don't think I have any more questions of you at this time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to review the case file and the comments received from other departments. I see the comment from the police, which is essentially confirms staff's summary of their comments. Police don't have any objections or conditions. City Engineer's Office has no comments or conditions. None of the several city departments have any comments or conditions. Chamber of Commerce letter submitted by Ms. Williams indicates the support for the project. And I see this petition with many names in support. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Does anybody else have any wish to speak on this matter? One more comment? Okay.
Just one more comment. On the petition, I noticed this morning, I went through all the addresses and looked at, only 3 of them are outside of the city of Glendale. So 54 of those 57 signatures are Glendale residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing nobody else, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'll just let you know that my inclination is to grant the CUP with the conditions proposed, and I'll be writing my approval letter in the next few days.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to pass the gavel to Brad Collin, who will take the next case.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Bradley Collin. I will be conducting the last hearing as hearing officer today. We have one case remaining, and the relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided by the front door and submit it to our planning assistant. I'd also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the application or request. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, giving their analysis and their recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present a case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired. And the applicant will be given 5 minutes for that. The hearing will then be closed and taken under submission, or a decision may be made today. The next case is a request for an approval of a standards variance to construct a 224-square-foot addition to an existing single-family residence without providing a second covered and enclosed parking space. My understanding, the findings were mentioned at the beginning of the hearing for the variance, and I would like the applicant, when they come up to do their presentation, to be able to address all 4 findings. And if the evidence presented in the application and the hearing meets the criteria, then the hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. I'd like to ask Mr. Reza to give us his report. Please.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Collins. The next project is located at 3505 Sierra Vista. Again, this project is a request for a standards variance to construct a 224-square-foot rear addition to an existing single-family residence without providing the required 2-car enclosed parking space. This project is exempt from CEQA, and this project is also located in the R1R Floor Area Ratio District 2. Staff recommends denial of the application, and however, the denial of the application constitutes a full report of the staff's analysis. The proposal is to allow a 224-square-foot addition while maintaining an existing 9-foot 7-inch by 17-foot 7-inch non-conforming 1-car garage at the rear of the property. The zoning requires a single-family residence of this size to provide 2 covered and enclosed parking spaces. The general intent and purpose of the ordinance is to provide sufficient on-site parking. The applicant contends that the addition only adds a minimal amount of square footage to an existing bedroom without any other proposed changes to the single-family residence. The applicant also contends that no additional occupants will live in the residence. Staff believes that the strict applications and provisions of the ordinance would not result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships, and that any hardship caused by this application would be self-imposed, which cannot justify his inability to provide a second enclosed parking space. The rear yard has adequate space and demonstrated on the plans to provide all required parking and still comply with all other zoning requirements such as landscaping, lot coverage, and setbacks. There are not any unique circumstances applicable to the subject property as it pertains to lot size or existing topographic conditions. The majority of lots in the immediate area are the same size, which generally contain a 2-car covered enclosed parking space based on the review of aerial photographs and a site visit. The existing driveway would be able to access an expanded garage, although an expanded garage would require the removal of a permitted laundry facility and bathroom adjacent to the house. Granting the variance will be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. The intent of the ordinance is to bring the number of parking spaces to code standards when an addition is made. The lot is a standard-sized lot and configuration which can accommodate a second covered and enclosed parking space. Again, there are no topographic conditions or lot size constraints that would make this request acceptable. Thus, the approval of the addition would perpetuate existing non-conforming conditions on the property, which is not the intent of the code. Staff recommends denial of this application. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Reza. I have no questions. We'll open up the public hearing. I have one speaker slip for Ernie Demis. Did I pronounce that right? And the public hearing is opened. Please state your name and address for the public record.
Ernie Demis,
3505 Sierra Vista Avenue. I start out by reading these questions and responding, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A, how will the strict application of the provisions of any such ordinance noted above result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships related to the property, inconsistent with the general purpose and intent of the ordinance? None. This addition only adds minimal square feet to an existing bedroom and adds a second bathroom. Otherwise, the home remains as is and will have 2 bedrooms. And it has 2 bedrooms. B, what exceptional circumstances or conditions apply to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood? None. No additional bedrooms. House conforms with the neighborhood. Why will granting of the variance not be detrimental to the public welfare? No additional occupants will live in the addition. Why will granting of the variance be in keeping with the objectives of the ordinance? Granting this extension will not increase the number of occupants. This means no additional parking spaces would be needed.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add, or?
Yes. As was stated, conforming with the city's request, destroying the laundry room that is used and destroying the guest house bathroom, which is also used, and also adding more construction to the building, and also destroying part of a deck that's used behind the house. All of that would be required in order to build a second garage. And as you can imagine, that would mean a lot of expense in order to do this. As was stated, the guest house and the bathroom and the laundry room were constructed under permit in the 50s. So why are we being asked to do this? It's because of parking. I did a parking study, and I surveyed the closest 40 spaces around my residence. 40, actually it could be more than 40 spaces, but I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt since we don't have aligned spaces. It's all open. And of those 40 spaces, at no time were there more than 20% of the spaces occupied, and usually they were between, usually around 15% of the spaces around my home are occupied. As you can see from the aerial shot over there, hardly any of the spaces are used, and I have some other photographs of the general area around me that shows that there really isn't the need to construct a parking space because of problems of parking on the street. Would you like to see these photos?
Sure. Now, the spaces, the 40 spaces you're mentioning, those are the on-street parking spaces, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the deck that you mentioned, is that currently where the proposed addition is going right now? You mentioned something about removing a deck.
Part of the deck, that would have to be done in order for a car back there to turn out.
And is that with a garage located at the rear and side property line at the back? Is that, would the deck still be?
The deck is behind the home. A little further back is where the garage is that exists right now. The second garage would have to be next to it, in from the property line where the laundry room is and the bathroom of the guest house is now.
Yeah, the minimum dimensions for a two-car garage are 20 by 20 interior clear, with basically a 16 by 7 door. So the deck that's existing, again, just so I can make sure I understand, does that go as far back as what's proposed for the addition? 15 feet back, or is it further than that?
I don't know the distances offhand, but I know that it wouldn't be possible for a car to turn out without destroying some of that deck back there.
And how high is the deck above ground?
Oh, just a foot and a half. Or something.
And it's a wood deck, cement deck?
No, it's a all wood type of deck that I constructed myself. There was a deck there before when I purchased the house. I just reconstructed a deck.
Because you could potentially, just looking at the plan, you could have a 20 by 20 in the rear corner without affecting the deck.
There's no way that a car could turn out without the deck being affected. That's really not a very important issue, though. The construction is what would make much more of a difference back there, having to add to the building and having to destroy something that is used. And I believe that destroying all of this and adding a second garage would cause the property to lose value, too. I also have letters from my neighbors in support. The closest 5 neighbors have all written letters in support of my construction project.
Okay. Did you want to submit those to our,
Sure.
as well as the photos?
The photos, too. I did a little research. I went to the library and I looked at this development when it was first constructed in the 20s. And looking at the photos, the development, my neighborhood looks just the way it does now as it did when it was constructed in the 20s. And the point is, people like you and others before you for the last 80 years have preserved the neighborhood. So there has been no development, which means there have been no added occupants over the years to the neighborhood. And that's one reason why I love living there, and that's one reason why there hasn't been a need for more parking over the years. Because, as you can see from the photo there, that's just the way it looks. We have small homes and not a lot of cars. I have one other thing, too. I spoke with the parking supervisor or one of the parking supervisors at the Glendale PD, Supervisor T. Hartunian, and I asked if there have been any complaints about parking. And she said there was one complaint about a vehicle that was left on the street 72 hours. But otherwise, there have been no complaints about parking in mine.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add, or? I mean, it's not required, but just.
No, I think that'll do.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no other speaker cards. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the hearing. Based on the findings recommended by staff and the information presented at this hearing, I am recommending denial of this variance. I don't see how the findings were addressed, and I don't believe that all the findings can be made to be able to recommend otherwise. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and all persons who responded to the public notice either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under Appeal Provisions, Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from the Building and Safety Section Permit Service Center located on the same floor of this building in Room 101. This hearing is now officially closed. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And it is December 1st at 10:15 a.m. Thank you very much.